Professor Loh, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
A great topic that you spoke on, outsmarting the AI. I'm very engaged with the entrepreneurial ecosystem, so I understand the nuances of application of technology, and I completely believe in outsmarting the AI. At the end of the day, it's humans who have created any technology. So there are only certain elements where technology can surpass you, but I think at the end of the day, humans still have control of technology.
Yes, definitely. I mean, actually, the main point of my talk was we started out by just opening ChatGPT, and we saw it can do easily the kinds of questions that kids do in school for mathematics, which actually begs the question of what's the value of a person, right? Is the person just supposed to be able to do mathematics questions, black and white questions? And my answer is actually no. What I mean is that actually these days, the most interesting questions that remain are the ones which are gray, the ones that involve other people, the ones that involve creating solutions that solve human problems.
However, I have a slightly different question. When humans create technology, human minds can be both ways, right? They have evil in their minds and they have the goodness in their minds, and they can leverage technology both ways. So is there a way to tie up technology where it does less harm than is anticipated?
Well, unfortunately, when Isaac Newton discovered F equals ma, or when Einstein had E equals mc squared, you can use those equations to do anything. For example, F equals ma, you can go and make a rifle. E equals mc squared, you can make the nuclear bomb. And so, unfortunately, once you discover a piece of truth or discover a new method of doing something, it's hard to control. So that's why actually my main work nowadays is in fact trying to propagate the right system of values so that hopefully the people in the world who have higher ability in the mathematics and in the technical sense might actually also have higher ethical standards.
But power is an amazing thing, right? Human beings are known to abuse power for centuries. And then when you have absolute power, that's where the problem starts. So when you put checks and balances in place, so technology is not abused, that's where I think, we have to start. So it may not directly relate to pure technology, but in terms of human aspect, how do you think when you work with other people across the aisle from you to learn and understand, how do we put these checks and balances?
Right. So I think the main thing is that you cannot check and balance something like E equals mc squared. Similarly, once the technology is there, it's hard to check and balance. So instead, the way I do this is if I'm ever thinking of who I want to teach, actually, if the person doesn't seem to want to use their knowledge to do something that particularly helps other people, I'm actually very uninclined to teach them. I actually should say these days I also run a program. I run a program for high school students where we're helping these people become extremely successful. And so once I found myself running this program, I found myself thinking from admissions point of view, who do we want to teach? And actually, the values that we promote are the ones that I say to my own kids. I also have 3 kids, right? So what I say to my kids is the same as what we try to propagate to the rest of the world, which is that the 2 most important principles, the first one is helping other people is how you become happy, and helping more people makes you more happy. And secondly, hard work is actually intrinsically fun if you found something with real meaning to work hard on. Now the point is, when we're deciding who we want to teach, we don't only screen by who has a high score. We actually do need that you have the potential to learn, so you need a good score. But then we actually check through interviews whether you also seem to have this mindset. Because the program that I run it's actually interdisciplinary. We help people who are very brilliant at mathematics and science to also become very good at talking. I hire professional comedians and actors to coach math people how to be interesting. Yeah. So actually, I work across the aisle between mathematics and drama. And so the net result is, for example, the students who are in our high school program, the ones who graduated last year, more than half of them are now at MIT, Harvard, and Princeton. What I'm trying to say is we're helping people gain positions where they would eventually have power and influence, but then we're then very responsible. Who do we want these people? Who do we want to empower? And so that's why we have a very extensive interview process and application process, because we're actually screening not only for skills, we're also screening for direction.
So that brings me to another question. You're talking about bringing some equilibrium between the left and the right brains. You teach at one of the finest schools, Carnegie Mellon, a diverse set of students who come from across the world. When you look at these kids who are coming from other parts of the world and the application of technology and the studies of humanities, are there some commonalities when you compare them to American-born and raised kids versus somebody who is from China or India or some other place?
Okay, that's very interesting. So our admissions department actually does a very good job of trying to figure out who has some, I don't want to say common set of values because it's not healthy for there to only be one set of values, but we do find that a lot of the people who come through do have some quite positive interpersonal dimension. I say this because I actually travel around the world. In fact, I got here to this conference this morning I got to my hotel this morning at 2:30 a.m. That's because I was flying in from Hong Kong. So today is, I already forgot the date, I think it must be the 13th. Today is January 13th, right? So from December 21 until yesterday, I gave 40 talks throughout Hong Kong, Korea, China. And so I've seen a lot of people because I've run around giving talks with hundreds of people attending each one. And now what I've seen is that if you just go and see what's the average person, let's say, for example, in China, I'll use that as an example because that's where I just was. The average person in China who's very good at math is very different from the average Carnegie Mellon student from China, because our admissions department has screened for the people who not only have math, but also have some sense of responsibility, if that makes sense. And I would say we've found the same thing for the students from other countries as well. I'm very happy to work with the students because they seem to have that social responsibility.
One other question related to this is, since you travel so much and you speak to students, especially in Asia, we grew up very focused on STEM and rote learning, and here is slightly different. Is that changing in those parts of the world?
So I'll answer for China since that's where I just was. So for the people who are preparing for the standard Chinese college admission test, rote learning is still quite common. When I say rote learning, what I mean is they do massive amounts of practice so that they can get high scores on the standard exams. That's because in China, if you want to get into the top universities, there's a test, and your score on the test is basically it. I think that's like IIT. Is it?
Yeah.
Similar to IIT. Now, in China, it turns out there's also some people who are interested in applying to international universities. For those people, they actually use a different mode of learning because they know they need to prepare for international. That one is much more similar to US. However, what I do, I mentioned I have this program that teaches high school students how to be interesting. That's because that's part of a bigger program I run. We actually have people from all over the world learning from our middle school program. We actually have a new way of teaching middle school students how to not learn through rote, but to learn by brainstorming about questions they've never seen before. And the reason we can scale that up is because we have all these high school geniuses who are simultaneously learning from actors while they're also coaching middle school students. So what I'm explaining is that, actually, let me answer this way. If you want to be able to teach people in a dynamic way that's not rote, the big limiting factor is it's hard to get enough coaches and teachers who come with that expertise on how to train this way, as well as the math expertise that can handle any math question at any moment, right? So actually what I've done, let me put everything together now. I have a 3 birds with 1 stone scalable solution. 3 birds with 1 stone is 3 different pain points. The middle schoolers is 1 pain point. They need to learn how to not rote learn math. The high schoolers are a second pain point we solve, learn how to communicate. But the way that works is that they learn how to communicate while coaching the middle schoolers math. So suddenly I have enough people who are delivering this dynamic learning. Of course, the third pain point is we have the actors who we give jobs to. So great, all 3 win. Okay, but the important thing is that if you want to learn through not rote, you need to have some way of intrinsically incentivizing a large pool of people who are extremely capable at math and also good at talking. How to do that? My solution was, well, here we are in the United States. If you are trying to apply for these top US universities, you actually cannot get there just through scores. You have to get there through person. And so what I said is, okay, if you go and find a high school math genius and they need to practice communicating, they need to say something anyway. What is the easiest thing for a high school math genius to talk about? What do you think? For a high school math genius, what topic do you think is the easiest for them to talk about?
I don't know, I would say math.
There you go. So what we just did is we made a system where for the high school student, doing what is the easiest way for them to learn communication skill, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Yes. Bam! Suddenly we can scale non-rote learning because we have all these math geniuses who are simultaneously learning communication while they are teaching. I want to say the one breakthrough we made is that we're the first people in the history of education to make it so that during the teaching process, we are the only ones to put a professional actor in every classroom while teaching is happening. This is new. High school students teaching middle school students, that's old. They've done that for ages. We're the first ones where while the high schooler is teaching middle schoolers, we have a professional actor. And the professional actor is, during the lesson, giving real-time feedback to the high schooler. Now it all wins.
And where do you do this?
Oh, the whole thing's online. This is very important because we scaled this. So this is something where we want to be able to deliver it to any corner of the world. And so we had to do it all online. Actually, the online is important because the high schooler is busy. So if they had to drive somewhere, suddenly it's not efficient use of their time. For our high schooler, they just pop online. And the other important thing is during the coaching, when the high schooler is coaching middle school, we use online to hide the actor. So no one can see the actor except the high schooler. If you did this in person, it wouldn't work because if you have someone teaching and then they're getting feedback from a very talented actor, no one will watch the teacher, they'll watch the actor. We use online so that we can go anywhere in the world and we can even have the feedback coming from the actor when they are off camera from the perspective of the people learning, but on camera from the perspective of the math person.
So we can give you the option to plug the online. So what's the name and how do people go and register?
Oh, sure. It's called Live. And the website is live.poshenloh.com. It's live.myname, POSHENLOH.com. The easiest way to find it is just search Google for Live Math Classes. We're actually the top hit that looks like the website was made in the last 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And finally, about Math Olympiad, I'm trying to learn, that has to be pretty much almost all rote, or there is something more to it?
Oh, there's much more to it. So this is important. So if you want to learn how to do a standard exam, that's rote. And actually, I should say some countries do Math Olympiad a bit more through rote. In the United States, we don't do that. So basically, what happens if you want to get good at Math Olympiads is you learn in this way that I just talked about, which is that the student has to not rote, they have to brainstorm. Actually, I didn't talk about it, so let me explain. So the way that I usually teach, and the way that we teach in the whole school I run, is that the instructor doesn't tell you how to do it before you try yourself. We give you a question you've never seen before, and then we ask you and your classmates to brainstorm ideas. As you guys brainstorm ideas, then we have an instructor giving real-time feedback to help you see how your ideas can make an original solution. That's actually how to get good at Math Olympiad problems. Because then you learn how to generate your own ideas. A Math Olympiad problem is a problem that doesn't look like the school textbook. Now, in some countries, people just try to do even more rote. The idea is if you have seen enough problem types, even the ones outside of the school textbook, then you cover everything. But I don't advocate that because I think that's a waste. That doesn't teach you how to generate a new idea. And yes, you'll become very good at solving those kinds of questions. But in real life, you're never going to see those. Yeah. Whereas if what you learned instead is, oh, a question I've never seen before. What do? Let's brainstorm. If you become very good at brainstorming, that's a general skill.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. It's been amazing. I think a lot of people benefited from this information. And thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge with us.
Sure, my pleasure. Nice to meet you.